IsReal News. This is the morning briefing for Saturday, March 7th. Air raid sirens sounded across wide areas of Israel as Iran launched additional missile salvos overnight and into the morning hours. Millions of residents moved into protected spaces as air defense systems intercepted incoming projectiles. Initial reports indicate multiple interceptions and at least 2 impacts in central areas, with emergency services responding. This comes as Iran continues sustained retaliatory strikes following the escalation between Israel, the United States, and Iran. The Israel Defense Forces report that Iran has launched at least 8 missile salvos toward Israel since midnight. Military officials say no injuries were reported in the latest ballistic missile attacks. This occurs as Iranian forces continue repeated launches, while Israeli air defenses remain fully engaged. Israeli airstrikes inside Iran continued overnight. The IDF says it destroyed 16 aircraft belonging to the Revolutionary Guards Quds Force at Tehran's Mehrabad International Airport. According to the military, the airport served as a central hub for transferring weapons and funding to proxy groups across the region. This follows a broader Israeli campaign targeting military infrastructure and command systems inside Iran. Additional strikes were reported in Tehran and Isfahan after Israeli aircraft targeted facilities associated with the Revolutionary Guard. Military officials say the operations are aimed at degrading Iran's ability to conduct attacks and support regional proxy forces. This occurs as Israel continues expanding its operational targets within Iranian territory. U.S. President Donald Trump said American and Israeli forces had destroyed 42 Iranian naval vessels over the past 3 days and claimed Iran's air force and communication systems had been significantly damaged. He said the United States would continue military operations and threatened additional strikes. The development follows ongoing U.S. participation in the broader campaign against Iranian military capabilities. In northern Israel, Hezbollah expanded rocket and drone attacks from Lebanon. Israeli authorities report interceptions of incoming rockets and drones. This takes place as the northern front remains active alongside the conflict with Iran. The Israeli military issued renewed evacuation warnings to residents in southern Lebanon, instructing civilians to move north of the Litani River ahead of additional strikes. Israeli officials say the warning is intended to reduce civilian risk as operations against Hezbollah targets continue. Jordan's military says it has intercepted 119 missiles and drones since the start of the current escalation between Israel, the United States, and Iran. Officials say many of the projectiles were directed toward Jordanian territory. This occurs as regional air defense systems remain active across multiple countries. Iranian President Masoud Pezeshkian said Iran's relations with neighboring countries remain important, but do not limit Tehran's right to defend itself against what he described as Israeli and American aggression. Iranian officials say their operations are directed at military facilities associated with those countries. The statement follows criticism from regional governments after Iranian attacks impacted Gulf states earlier in the conflict. The Islamic Revolutionary Guard Corps announced that it carried out strikes on a U.S. air operations and communications center at Al-Dhafra Air Base in the United Arab Emirates. Iranian media also reported additional Israeli strikes in Tehran around the same time. These developments come as the conflict continues to expand geographically. In Europe, German police arrested a man who attempted to enter the Israeli consulate in Munich while shouting religious slogans. Authorities say the suspect was detained without injuries reported. The incident takes place amid heightened security measures around Israeli diplomatic sites worldwide. A classified U.S. intelligence assessment reported by the Washington Post concludes that even a large-scale war is unlikely to bring about the collapse of Iran's governing system. According to sources familiar with the report, the Iranian military and religious establishment are expected to maintain institutional continuity even under sustained pressure. This comes as U.S. leadership continues discussing potential long-term outcomes of the conflict. Turkey says it is considering deploying F-16 fighter jets to northern Cyprus following recent drone attacks targeting the island. Turkish defense officials say the move is part of contingency planning to ensure security in the region. This occurs as multiple countries review defensive measures amid the widening conflict. Meanwhile, a senior Houthi official warned that expansion of the war into additional countries could occur, saying their forces remain prepared to act. U.S. and regional officials say they are closely monitoring the group's activity. The statement comes as Iran-aligned groups continue assessing whether to enter the conflict more directly. Those are the latest headlines from IsReal News.